Good morning and welcome to this week's episode of the Last Night's Game podcast, where today we're taking us to a scary, dark place. We're talking about why being an athlete is actually a nightmare. And some of those stories, like you and I might be terrified about showing up to a work event and we have nightmares about us being naked. Well, there are things like Buddy Hield who showed up in the wrong uniform and everyone made fun of him. So some of them are maybe dark side, some of them maybe a little more lighter dark side of sports. And here to talk all about that is my favorite co-host and my favorite brother, Scott. Scott, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me on. There's a lot of glitz and glamour that comes with being a professional athlete, like you spoke about. Money, fame, everyone recognizes you, which we're going to talk about may not be a great thing at certain times. We're here to talk maybe more of the spooky side of sports.
Yeah, it's we've talked a lot about haunted things and stuff like that on the podcast. So we're going to cover a little bit of the spooky side, and I'm going to just start us off here with the question of this week, if you don't have a team to cheer for, who would you cheer for?
Restraining orders.
Okay, tell me more.
Well, if you don't have a team to cheer for, restraining orders that athletes have had to place on fans that overstep their boundaries are a great thing to cheer for. Giving athletes a peace of mind. I know we've got quite a list of
Yes.
multiple athletes that unfortunately have had to go through this. And I know very unsettling knowing that you play in front of thousands and thousands of fans every time you step on the court or the field. And this person that has been harassing you in DMs and calling you and mailing you letters could potentially just be in the crowd and with bad intentions.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Well, do you remember, and we actually haven't talked about this, I think was it, gosh, I'm blanking on her name, the tennis player who way back when she was stabbed by like a stalker at a tennis match. I'm gonna blank on her name.
Yeah, on the court. Oh
Yes.
gosh.
Yes, I'm blanking on her name right now, but, like, you look at these and, yes, these are people sliding into your DMs, and they have much more
Mhm.
access to you now with social and things like that. But, I mean, we were talking Paige Beckers, we're talking Caitlin Clark. You had you sent me a really interesting article about in tennis. Once again, we're back onto tennis. Emma
Yes.
Raducanu, she had quite the experience this year.
She did, and she got her fame winning the US Open here at a very young age. I think it was back during the COVID times. So she shot to meteoric fame from relatively being unknown, which can be a great thing for money and advertising and, living the life you've never dreamed you've had. But then you get people stalking you at various tournaments, and especially tennis. These A lot of these tournaments they play on smaller courts on the outside of the big arenas, which gives fans like crazy access to be extremely close to you. And like you said, we had someone get stabbed on the court,
Yeah, that was
and it's
Monica
just pretty
Seles.
tough. Monica Seles, that was the name I was thinking of. Thank you to our research department.
Mhm.
And you watch Wimbledon, and there's fans 3 feet from these players, and really, if somebody wanted to get on the court, it would be really tough to stop them. So this is one of the more troubling ones that we've had in a
Yes.
while.
So Emma had, someone who, was following her and someone that she noticed was at, the 4 tournaments before Wimbledon.
Uh-huh.
And so, this man had been following her, and it was in Dubai that he approached her, in the morning and gave her, I believe, at a coffee shop and asked for a photo and gave her a letter.
Mhm.
And then she saw him in the crowd again at her match and was a mess. As you can imagine, this person is literally just very creepily stalking you. And she, like, hid behind the umpire's chair, she was in tears, she couldn't breathe. They eventually escorted this person out, and then they caught him trying to apply for tickets to Wimbledon, and the system
Yes.
flagged him as someone who wasn't allowed in the facilities.
Yeah, I think after the Dubai incident, his name was out there with all the tournaments. And I think you were researching that Wimbledon specifically has like a full on team that does stuff like this. It looks for people who should not be allowed to come in and cannot buy tickets. So good for Wimbledon.
Good for Wimbledon for doing that. I mean, I thought it was interesting in the research on this, I was they have o obviously severe security levels, but they have a team of fixated threat specialists, and that's what this man was charged with, a fixated threat.
Yes.
Fixated threat specialists that are hired and are in the building and can assist the player escort team. There are also behavioral experts in the stands trained to spot people acting strangely. It's really interesting when you think
Hmm.
about, and I've just never really thought about this perspective, and I'm sure it probably exists in a lot of sports. I mean, you look at like golf and the
Yes.
proximity to a player in golf as well. And so it was really interesting to see. I mean, she's so young, and this is such a terrible thing for her to have to even deal with, and the anxiety that would come from stepping on the court.
Yes, absolutely. Trying to win a tennis match on the world's biggest stage at Wimbledon and having to worry about wherever this man is creepily following you.
Yeah. And you were actually telling me, I mean, quite a few stories out there of athletes who've been harassed and stalked, but you have a story of, I actually have a story too from my time, but you have a story, one of the big old football player.
Probably one of the most physically gifted and impressive football player athletes we've ever seen. Aaron Donald, who played for the Los Angeles Rams, won a Super Bowl. He's one of the most intimidating people you'll ever see in real life, but he had a stalker who happened to be a woman. So unfortunately, it's not just men stalking women. There's also women stalking professional athlete men that, can cross the line. I think she was like writing letters to his kids and like his wife and stuff. And if it can happen to him, it can happen to anyone.
Yeah, I
And
was actually
if you're crazy enough to mess with that man, you have some real real problems because there's most NFL linemen don't want to touch that man. So that's
yeah.
quite frightening.
Well, I was telling you a story before we got on.
Mhm.
When I worked in baseball, we had one of our players who was married, maybe made some bad choices in his extracurricular activities outside of his marriage.
Yes.
And this woman proceeded, and this was before, like, really, I mean, you had social media, but not to the same extent, the access you had now.
Yeah.
And, she would send letters, to his children at their house, drop things on the doorstep, like a package full of pictures of this man and his wife out of magazines and things, and she would cut them up and put them in a box and leave them on their doorstep. So you just think about just the creepiness that this person knows where you live. And so every time we did an event where his wife would be present, we would always have to have extra security. And she had her own security guard because you never knew what someone was gonna do, and how if this
Mhm.
person's crazy enough to write letters to your children and all these other things, then, like, you never know what someone's gonna do, and that's terrifying.
Yeah. And social media gives them access to see everything, right?
Mhm.
Pictures are available of most people probably shouldn't post their kids, but they do. And
That's why I don't do
you
it.
can find out anything you want really on the internet. So
Yeah, that's
that's
exactly it.
terrifying.
It's really terrifying, spooky, and scary.
Yes.
I mean, I'm gonna take us to a turn that is still equally as scary, but talk to me about a go-to conversation starter with sports fans this week.
In game screw ups.
These are these can
These
be
are definitely
deadly.
scary, definitely scary and deadly, perhaps in some
Mhm.
cases.
Yeah, we were kinda talking about this, and, my first thought came to own goals. So that's, you tend to see it in soccer where an athlete scores a goal in their own goal against their own goalie, and it counts for the other team.
Yes. And usually not intentional by any means. Soccer ball can, ricochet off things and go into your own goal. Not great for the player nor the team. And this probably could be a scary movie. I don't know if they've actually made one. Maybe they should. We had an instance in the World Cup in 1994 where a Colombian defender had an own goal, which kind of led to the team being eliminated from the World Cup. And he actually ended up getting murdered over it. So they really took it to another level on the scary factor there.
I mean, the death threats kickers receive from NFL teams when they miss something.
Anything nowadays, the unparalleled access is terrifying, honestly.
It really is. I mean, you can argue that you have more security, more access to people who can then obviously find stuff, but, I mean, if they're gonna make a movie about a killer sloth,
A very scary
they
movie, by the way.
this that was your costume on here. What was
It
that, last
was.
year? 2 years ago.
2 years ago, yes. Very scary sloth.
But then you were telling me one that I don't know this story,
Mhm.
and this may not be as scary as it is maybe, like, scary to your career, or scary, to or embarrassing, but something about Chris Webber and when he was the Fab Five.
Yes, and this was before the internet and DMs and social media, so that's probably a good thing. Definitely would have led to a lot of threats being made, probably very direct threats to him. Fab Five, if you don't know, was the Fab Five freshmen at Michigan. They came on the scene They were, they had flair. They kind of brought a new dynamic to college basketball, and they were the biggest thing, kind of like the Beatles, honestly, of college basketball when they came in. And they made it to the national championship where Chris Webber, who's an incredible athlete, incredible basketball player, had a great NBA career, made a very scary mistake towards the end of the game. He was dribbling up the court and thought the team had a timeout, which would give them a better idea, a better way to stop the game and get a better plan, get a plays set, but they did not have a timeout. And so he called it with, I think it was like 11 seconds left, and they didn't have it, which results in a technical, and the other team gets to shoot free throws. And so therefore they ended up losing the game based on this one play.
And he's a freshman, so he's 17, 18 years old.
Yes. And he's just, you know, as you can imagine, that's probably it could have ended his career, honestly, the amount of hate and just like, what's the word I'm looking for? Embarrassment
Yeah.
of which,
You have to really
so
like, that probably took a lot of therapy.
yes, I'm sure. And I'm probably still not healed to this day.
He probably hasn't called a timeout in his entire rest of his career.
Just refuses, just let the clock run out.
Well, so here's my question, and this
Uh-huh.
is you may but, like, what harm comes from, like, just ignoring him and being like, "You don't have one?"
It's a great question.
I don't know, I'm just like I mean, I get it, like, that's your job and all these things,
Yeah.
and NFL, you get in trouble if you call a timeout and you don't have one. Like, I
Yeah.
get that's a thing, but it's like, "Alright, let's move on, we're just gonna ignore Chris because Chris doesn't know what's going on."
I'm sure he wished that was the rule, but unfortunately it's not because it would still stop the clock and give you time to, reset and do that. Maybe get a play called out to your team. And this actually happened recently, Las Vegas Aces in the playoffs. Head coach Becky Hammond called a timeout and she didn't have one towards the end of the game and ended up getting a tech. So it's happened to the best of us, even the best coaches in the world. It happens. A scary miscommunication.
We all screw up.
Maybe a demon took over their brains and called the timeout. There was maybe
Possible.
an exorcism possibly should have happened. So it happens to the best of us.
We're worried about her hydration, she was hallucinating, there was an extra
Yes,
timeout.
exactly.
And I wanna kinda this kinda goes well, it doesn't really go along the same ways, but kind of. If you wanna fire up a sports fan this week, what are you talking about in this scary podcast?
Sports betting,
Sports betting. Very scary. It scares me to walk up to a booth and bet, so yes, that is scary.
that can be scary, and it's scary to think that you can be a good sports bettor is a scary thought too, because you're not going to be.
There's do they exist? And
No,
if
there's
they
like
do exist, do casinos hire them to set the lines?
maybe eventually. Usually they just get banned from the casinos if they're that good. There's probably about 1% of gamblers are that good. But
What a
in this
badge of
case, we're
honor.
well, yeah, but you're usually not a great person if you're that good.
That's true, that takes a lot of losses to figure
It
that out.
does, it does. But
But sports betting has
it
gotten
leads
yeah.
to harassment, which is very spooky and scary for not only professional athletes these days, but college athletes because, these people are betting on 17, 18-year-old kids who may call a timeout and they don't have one or miss a free throw or strike out, and they're just kids. And now social media gives you access to say whatever you want, honestly,
That's true.
with very little repercussions. And there's been cases where it has led to people getting arrested and
Mhm.
charged, but people think they can say whatever they want to any athlete in the DMs, and there's no really repercussions.
Question. This is recently new. Were you not previously able to bet on college sports, or it's become college because betting has become so prevalent, this has now become a news story?
So there are certain states where you cannot bet on colleges in your state. Like the
Mm,
state of New Jersey, you cannot bet on any college in New Jersey.
okay.
So that's a good thing for those athletes. But I think it's just because sports betting has become so prevalent that we're seeing more of this, that people think they're smart enough to bet. And if they lose, it's okay just to harass these athletes.
Right, it's not the athlete's fault that they had a bad game and you
Hmm.
decided to bet, I don't know,
Yeah.
the over.
Your 10-cent parlay with 50 legs didn't win because they missed a free
Yeah,
throw.
you didn't make $1,000,000 off of betting a dollar.
Exactly. And that's their fault. And
Yes,
I
that's
think a lot of college props, which props are, over under points and things like that. they don't exist in a lot of states because of that
So you can't basically nail it to one play, right? Because
person.
you can't if I may and I could be wrong, but, like, isn't there a thing about, like, not in betting on individual players in college sports? Like, it has to be a team bet?
It can vary state by
Okay.
state, but a lot of them have worked towards not allowing prop bets on individual players for this reason alone,
That's just
and
really
to
interesting.
prevent point shaving and things like that,
That too. I mean, there's
which is
that piece
also
of it.
spooky.
That's a whole 'nother podcast about
It
cheating. We
is.
should probably
Yes,
do
it
that at
is.
some point
Yeah, absolutely.
because that's also very interesting.
We've had a lot of cases recently, so stay
There you
tuned.
go.
We'll get into
Add
that
this
sometime soon. Yeah.
add this to the bank. Nah, wait, I wanna make sure I give us enough time because I wanna talk about this really eerie story that I didn't realize the intricacies of it. We were
Mhm.
just talking about sports injuries, but
Yes.
this story about Alex Smith has so much depth and weird connections that share this story with us.
And sports injuries are certainly spooky and scary, and you don't know when they're going to happen. At any moment, your career could be over in any sport. And maybe one of the most eerie injuries we've ever had with some crazy coincidences is going to be Alex Smith, who was a quarterback. He was playing for the Redskins or whatever they are now, the Commanders, and he suffered like a catastrophic leg break, a compound fracture, like one of the worst injuries
Like,
we've
came
ever
through the
seen.
skin, if I remember correctly, like
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, like really, really bad. And there's actually some extremely eerie coincidences with this injury because Joe Theismann, who was a quarterback a while ago, also suffered the same injury on the same day, November 18th. His was 1985. Alex's was 2018. Joe Theismann was a quarterback for the Redskins at the time, and it happened on the same yard line, the 39-yard line.
I have
So we've got
chill like, that just gave
same
me
day, same day, same team, same position, same yard line on two like basically career-ending injuries.
it's like, that just gave me full body chills and
Yes,
multiple I mean, first of all and we can dive into this next, but, like,
yes,
just the coincidence is, like, what are the chances and who was the stat guy that figured that out, first of all? Or stat
it's
gal?
that person.
Stat person. I mean, like, that's just I mean, that's the craziest thing, and I'm curious if anyone's dove into, like, Commander's history of, like, did something else happen? Did they bury Jimmy Hoffa underneath the stadium on the same day with the poured the
Is he
concrete?
buried under the 39-yard line? Maybe.
Could be.
Or maybe,
Could be. I mean, if
somebody.
we're worried about the goat that was the Cubs curse or whatever,
Yes,
right? So, that's just so interesting. The story of Alex Smith, though, like, terrifying career-ending injury, and he went through it. Not only did he get hurt and he had to have it repaired, but he ended up getting gangrene, like, he had such a road to recovery, but he came back and played.
he did come back and play a little bit. I mean, it wasn't career it was certainly career-altering
Yes.
and really kinda took him out of his prime in a way, but he battled back, I think, at what, like 17 or 18 surgeries just to be able to walk and
Mhm.
almost was very close to dying because
Dying.
of,
Infection.
infections and things like that, so and his if you see his leg, it looks spooky. Yeah. Yeah, it's very not good.
Yeah. It's and it's but it's like it's amazing that he has pushed through that, persevered, and came
Yes,
back, and so
absolutely.
it's just, like, such a but, like, the story of it, I didn't have any idea of the whole, like, weird background of all of it, so and the coincidences. Well, thank you for sharing these really interesting nightmares on Sports Street.
Nightmare on Sport Streets.
Nights here
All
on Sports
kinds.
Street.
We have all kinds of nightmares on Sport Streets.
Nightmares in your DMs, and,
Yes,
thank you for sharing
yes,
that with us, and we hope that you all if you enjoyed this episode, make sure you click that subscribe button and follow us for more, and we'll work on that cheating scandals type stuff as well while we're at it.
absolutely.
Thanks, Scott.